Welcome to the AMS Young Scholars Program webinar. Thank you all for joining today for the informational webinar. We know that this is a really busy time of year, so we really appreciate all of you being here. Today, we, as the American Mathematical Society, will be giving an overview of the AMS Young Scholars Program, sharing eligibility and application requirements, then actually walking through the application on screen share, since there have been some changes from last year. And then at the end of the presentation, we will have time for additional questions. If you asked questions in the registration survey, just please know that they will be addressed and answered throughout the presentation. Yep, so here's a little overview. Again, introductions, then we'll go through the program itself, some overview, the eligibility, available funding, and the timeline, as well as the application itself, some changes from the application from last year, and how to actually apply this year. So first and foremost, I want to introduce myself. My name is Lexi Ekstrom. I'm a program specialist with the American Mathematical Society. Alongside Rosalind and Sarah Kay, we all who are also in this meeting and maybe answering questions in the chat. We all oversee the application process. We work closely with the selection committee and then administer the awards of the Young Scholars Program. Sarah, who jumped on before, we're really glad to have you on the call. Sarah is the Associate Vice President of Programs. Sarah, would you like to jump in and introduce yourself again, as well as share your thoughts about the program and its goals?
Sure. So again, I'm Sarah Bryant. I am a mathematician myself by training and someone who's really excited about and passionate about empowering the next generation of mathematicians. So for many years, my husband and I ran a math circle for 4th and 5th graders, sharing with them lots of activities, and I've many fond memories of Saturday mornings setting up Mobius strips and other great things. So what we do here at the AMS is work, of course, at a national scale, and that's how we empower all of the amazing educators like yourselves who are also passionate about supporting the next generation of mathematicians. Through the Young Scholars Program, we help support summer experiences for young learners who are engaged in math-specific content. And we have seen all sorts of camps and other experiences over the summer funded through the Young Scholars Program. And the idea is that you're helping to share love and passion of mathematics and empower more young people to think about mathematics as a career, or at least something that's really positive in their lives. So we can talk about some of the mechanics of the funding and how programs are preparing applications and things about the selection committee and timeline, and Lexi will take the stage for that. I just want to thank you all for your interest in working with young scholars, and happy to share more information about how AMS can help support you in doing so. Okay, so I'll step backstage, Lexi, and let you take this show. We're available if you have any other questions or thoughts.
For sure. Thank you so much, Sarah. While the main focus of the webinar today really will be on the application itself and answering questions at the end, I will provide an overview of the program for all those attending who might not know as much about the program and who may be applying to it for the first time. So the AMS Young Scholars Program, as Sarah so wonderfully put, is a program that provides awards to summer mathematics programs in the United States, including its territories, that are aimed at high school students. So for the 2024-2025 application year, the one that is currently open, it is expected that awarded programs will take place during the summer of 2025. So next year in May and September, or May through September, is typically when the programs happen. So the eligibility requirements are rather straightforward. To be eligible, a program must have a proven track record of at least 1 year in operation, preferably more. Seed funding may be awarded to newer programs, as noted later in the presentation, But regardless, all must have been in operation for at least 1 year. Additionally, the program must be located in the United States or its territories, meaning that both where the program is based and where the program itself happens must be in the United States or its territories. So beyond these requirements, the AMS seeks to fund programs that really run over a period of multiple weeks during the summer. It's expected that most, if not all, of the program will take place during the summer months of May to September of next year. They also are expected to bring in at least 20 high school students with mathematical talent and be primarily directed by mathematicians. We did have some questions in the registration survey about if international students are eligible to attend the programs funded through the Young Scholars Program and whether student support is restricted to US citizens. Our response is that students who attend the program are not required to be US citizens or permanent residents, and programs and institutions themselves must determine if providing scholarships to non-US citizens or permanent resident students is allowable according to a student's visa status. So within these broad guidelines laid out over the last couple of slides, many different programs may be considered eligible to apply. Programs may focus on any area of mathematics, such as pure or applied mathematics, for example, and maybe narrow or broad in scope, such as if they include problem solving or mathematical research. Eligible programs may also be specifically targeted to one high school year, such as like ninth graders versus seniors in 12th grade, or to mathematically talented women or racial minorities. Programs that incorporate undergraduate or graduate students alongside mathematicians in their teaching, as well as that attract members of underrepresented groups, are especially encouraged to apply. So with that, we'll move on to available funding. So each year, multiple programs are awarded with the Epsilon Fund through the AMS Young Scholars Program. Awards range from $2,500 to $15,000. Multiple programs will be awarded each year, but the funding amounts may vary from year to year if you are applying again. For a mature program, the minimum award will be $2,500 if awarded, and maybe up to $15,000 as noted. Some newer programs may receive $5,000 as seed funding. In all of these cases, it's expected that more than half of each award will be used for scholarships, while the remainder will be used for program expenses. So in those funds that are awarded, no institutional overhead or indirect costs will be covered as well. Okay, just going over the application timeline so we can all be on the same page of when to apply and when certain elements of the program would happen. As for the program timeline, the call for applications is already underway. Applications for the program opened on November 1st. Today, we're having the webinar where you may learn more about the program and ask questions. And then at the beginning of January in 2025, the program staff will be available at the joint mathematics meeting to answer questions if any of you are attending. So these will be during program booth times during the entirety of the JMM, so January 8th to 11th in Seattle, Washington. Then a few weeks later, on January 22nd, 2025, the applications will close on math programs at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Time. So always be on the lookout for that timestamp. If you're putting in an application a bit later, be aware that it is Eastern Time. So after the program closes to applications, we at the AMS will be doing eligibility checks and then working very closely with the selection committee. By April 1st, you should know your application status and whether or not your program has been awarded, as we will notify you of the program selection and request additional documents to accept the award if you are chosen as an awardee. If your program is awarded funds, you should expect fund payments for your program around May 2025. The summer program is then hosted during the summer of 2025 as planned. And once it is done, we will then expect a final report from you at the latest by October 15th, 2025. So that sort of lays out the different timeline aspects of the Young Scholars Program. So, moving on to the application itself. As stated in the timeline section, applications will be open from November 1st, 2024 until January 22nd, 2025. Applications will only be accepted via mathprograms.org, and an application will be considered complete once an application is submitted on mathprograms.org. You may additionally choose to provide a reference with your application. This year, there has been some changes where if you applied last year, the cover letter and the program details letter are now incorporated into the application itself, rather than asked for as documents. So this means that the application itself is really just the application on math programs plus a reference if you would like to submit one. That is it. So references, if you would like to submit one, should come from someone not working directly in the program. So this person could be an associated faculty member or a former program participant would be wonderful, for example. At the end of the application, there will be a section for providing this reference, and a reference request will be directly sent to the person whose information you provided for the reference. It's not you submit it yourself, it's the person whose information you have will be receiving that reference request. It is then your responsibility to confirm with that person whether the request has been received and whether the reference is submitted on time. So some further notes about the application. Only applications from program directors will be considered. So not from parents, not from students, only program directors. We had a wonderful question coming with our registration about collaborative applications. We don't see why not. Collaborative applications, they may be considered. However, in your budget statement, which is a part of the application, just really make sure that it is clear how the funds will be allocated to the collaborating institutions. Because again, 50% must be for student scholarships. So ensuring that that is fulfilled while allocating funds to different institutions as a part of a collaboration, it must be really well thought out. Then again, if you are an applicant who has applied in the past and whether or not you receive funding, we would like to remind you that you must submit a new application for support each year. So even if you were awarded funding last year or the year before, while we have those applications, it is very important that a new one is submitted each year, because it will be a different committee, or the selection committee has multiple members, change out every year, and we want to have the most up-to-date information. So making sure that those applications are submitted, even if you have applied before. Also in the registration survey, we received a question about what sorts of details it may be beneficial to include in the application. All applications will be reviewed holistically by the selection committee. Mostly, we would recommend that your application be focused and concise in answering the required questions. They're there for a reason. They do take from all of the previous applications, as well as based on committee feedback, we've restructured it. So really it is being able to present the best representation of your program and why it should receive funding from this fund. So if your program is well established, for example, we'd recommend that you provide evidence of its success. And if it's a bit newer, evidence of a detailed vision and plans for growth. So now, changes to the application. One moment, please. I'm doing a lot of talking. So changes to the application. As mentioned earlier, we're really hosting the webinar not only for people who are new to the Young Scholars Program, but also to those who have applied before and may be seeing a different application this year. So thankfully, it is all taken from applications of the past. We just restructured it a bit so that the committee can really get the best information out of your application and really be able to allocate funds as necessary. So for those of you who are applying again, this year, largely based on committee feedback, we restructured the application so that information previously provided in the required cover letter or program's details letter are now simply a part of the application. So we've removed the cover letter and the program's detail letter from the application entirely. If you had these documents ready for this year's application, it should be relatively easy to copy and paste sections from them into the application text boxes, as the application questions directly correspond to the questions we asked you to answering last year's cover letter and program details letter. In the application walkthrough in just a moment as well, you'll be able to see this. Additionally, as stated earlier, we encourage your responses to be specific to each question and concise. If you're struggling with a word limit, for example, then it is all right to use bullet points. And if you believe there are extenuating circumstances or details that you are unable to expand upon or work into any other section of your application, we do have a text box without a word limit for question 13 that you can use for these purposes. Okay, now with that, we'll go into an application walkthrough. Let me just get all set up for sharing my screen. So now we should be seeing mathprograms.org. Once you log in, if you go to the Programs tab and scroll down to the American Mathematical Society, the AMS Young Scholars Program is right here, and you can click on this aspect to go to more information. A lot of the information I've said today is also repeated in the application page. So if you would like to look more into that, the application page is right there, right before the application itself. And then if you go to apply, you'll be brought to the application page. So for the newly restructured application, we've tried to break it into various sections. First, there is an applicant information section where you, as the program director, should put your name and email, as well as like, are you a program director? Like, this is another one of the ways where it's like we look for eligibility right away. But again, each application will be reviewed. If there are any others, we'll be reviewing those as well, of course. So then in question 3 through 7, we have more information about the program itself. So just to be clear, you, the person, are the applicant, not the program. You are applying for a specific program, but you yourself as the program director are going to be the applicant. So then questions 3 through 7, really all the program information. We have a couple questions that are both rather broad, all about the program, its location, whether you have a sponsor of an institution. And then we have questions specifically about the summer of 2025. So including the deadline for the applications, the number of students expected, as well as the mathematical areas expected to be covered. Then for question 8 through 13, there are questions with text box responses that largely ask for the details that were last year shared in the cover letter and the program details letter. Again, question 13 is the one without a word limit. So in case you have extenuating circumstances, if you are unable to elaborate as necessary in any of these other text boxes, this one does not have a word limit and it can be used for extenuating circumstances or additional details. Then question 14, 15, and 16 are really about the budget. So this is something we asked for last year in the program details letter, for example. So whether your program has received other funding, we asked for a detailed narrative about how funds would be used from the AMS Young Scholars Program. Then after the budget questions, we have a quick selection, check as many as you want, of just how you learned about the AMS Young Scholars application. And then we have our area to provide an optional reference. So the process of requesting a reference on mathprograms.org requires you to use the mathprograms.org cover sheet to add references. And only then can these references be added to your application or not. So I'll do a little example there. So in addition to the application sheet, you'll want to go to your cover sheet. You'll want to save your changes. I will not for my purposes. And then down here at the bottom of the page, you'll be able to see that you can enter reference information. For example, just put my own name, email, affiliation, saved it. And then when I go back to the application, you'll be able to use this checkbox to add or take away references. Just so in case you have multiple references in mathprograms.org, we want to specify there can only be one added to this application. Please only use the checkbox to select one. And we will be making sure we have the correct one in case multiple are submitted by using this text box here of actually entering the name of the reference. So if that name aligns with the reference, we know that it's the one you want to submit with your application. Okay, and then once you are actually completed with the application, please remember to click the apply button at the bottom of the application page. Once you have applied, you will be able to edit your application and refer to it to see if your optional reference has been submitted. When in mathprograms.org, simply go to the programs tab and leave that. And then once you have applied, this little link will change to applied. You will be able to go back into your application and edit it, as well as see if your reference has been submitted. Once the deadline has passed on January 22nd, 2025 at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Time, you will no longer be able to edit your application. So this is only for applications that have been submitted before that deadline. You're able to go back in and edit as necessary. And with that, I have completed my portion of instruction of presentation for the webinar. I will now be taking any questions that may or may not have been addressed in the webinar.
And thank you, Lexi, for all of that very detailed information about the changes to the Young Scholars application for this year, as well as for all your hard work on developing that application. We did have one question that popped into the Q&A during your presentation, and that concerned the definition of success. And the short answer is that the definition of success is contextual. It will depend on the applying program's context, its mission, and its goals. And we would suggest that a program provide evidence of how it historically has fulfilled its mission, met its goals, et cetera, over time.
I completely agree with you. Also, a part of the application as well sort of aims to hit some of those good questions as well to sort of measure how likely a program is to make good use of the funds. So along with the application questions and the context that you put into the application, the committee will be able to have their own, they all bring their own specific background, they all bring their own mathematics background, and they really are wonderful in their ability to select the programs that they believe will be the best ones to use the funds. Do we have any other questions?
No other questions have appeared in the Q&A.
So one, thank you everyone for the questions that you asked both before the presentation and the one asked during. I hope that we have been of help and that you feel more prepared to either apply or pass on the opportunity to a colleague. If you have any questions that come up after the presentation is done, you may contact us directly at the email mathcamps@ams.org. So this one right here. Again, we'll also be in person at the JMM in Seattle, Washington at the start of January. Further, if you would like to receive communications about the program, especially if you're considering applying but don't know if this is the year, we do have a list that you can join to get more information about the Young Scholars Program in the future. So I provided links here that are very helpful for the website, such as the main program information page, a list of recent awardees, and a link directly to the application. I'm going to share this presentation with everyone who registered for the webinar, so you'll be able to have these direct links very soon. For those who are unable to attend, or for those who thought, hey, this was a wonderful webinar, I would like to share it with someone else, I wish they were here. The webinar will soon be up on the AMS website within about 3 weeks. So a few weeks, definitely before the JMM. Yeah, it will be added to the AMS YouTube channel in addition to the AMS Young Scholars main information page. So finally, one quick shout out. If you are considering promotion of your own summer mathematics program, the AMS website does have a list of active summer programs for high schoolers. So definitely consider adding your program to the AMS Opportunities site. And like I said before, if there was someone here who you think would really be wonderful and jump at the opportunity, of the Young Scholars Program, please pass it on to them, share it with your colleagues, and let us know if you have any questions. So with that, I believe this concludes our webinar. If there are no more questions, we thank you all for attending the event today, and I wish you all the best on your applications. So have a lovely and wonderful day.